So they are the doubt clearers and the problem solvers.
The ultimate managing authority.
A body that's preserving and innovating.
They're also the ones who are bringing information from every part of the world into one room where it can be discussed.
I first heard, some decisions are like this, some decisions are like that. And I was wondering, but who's the GBC after all? It sounds so vague.
Well, a big responsibility is to create a vision, to have a heart for the world, and to see how we can make it a better place.
Experience. And I think that's part of it.
As a historian, we have to look at the historical situation.
Christianity was in turmoil in many ways after 50 years. The early founders were gone. There was a question of who had the authority after that. There was a question of which country or which city or which region or which language had priority. There was rivalry between different factions. When they finally got around to writing the story of their founder, Jesus, in what are called Gospels, they wrote 4 Gospels, each of them different from the other ones because there were at least 4 different varieties. In fact, these are the 4 that are in the Bible are the 4 that made the cut, as it were, because there were a lot of other Gospels out there too that didn't make the cut. 50 years on, you would have said, well, this movement may make it may not. Islam, after Muhammad died, solved their scripture problem because Muhammad's revelations that were brought together in the Quran were relatively early. But they had enormous problems of succession and leadership. In fact, they literally fought wars over it. And within 50 years after the founding of Islam, the Shia-Sunni split had occurred. 2 rival factions that still have not reconciled. If you look at ISKCON after 50 years, it stacks up pretty well. I mean, it's gone from 0, basically. And nobody knew anything except, Prabhupada knew things, but nobody else did. It's gone from that to being a worldwide movement. And when Prabhupada disappeared, died in 1977, he left this work in progress very much in progress. And he left it with the confidence that they would sort it out. There might be problems, and there certainly have been problems, but he had the confidence that Krishna was on their side.
Even before Prabhupada's departure, people would come and ask him, who is going to succeed you, Prabhupada? And Prabhupada would always say, there would be a governing body commission.
The GBC is what Prabhupada created as what he called the Governing Body Commission of ISKCON. And he established in his will that it is meant to be the ultimate managing authority of ISKCON society. Who makes the decisions, theologically, managerial?
The concept of GBC, or Governing Body Commission, was given by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master. And he very emphatically told his leading disciples to manage the institution through this collective concept of management. That means not one person as the head, but a collective body functioning as an unit to maintain the institution.
Prabhupada understood I need to do this early So the GBC was established in 1970. He had a chance to train those people. A few decisions were made he didn't agree with. He corrected them. He oversaw a lot of the decisions himself. So there was a 7-year period of time. Prabhupada was here after he created the GBC because he wanted to make sure it was up and running.
December 74, Prabhupada asked me to be the GBC for India. Prabhupada, in the early stages, would guide us and get involved. But then around 1776 onwards, I saw that he was reducing his involvement intentionally. He wanted the GBCs and the next generation to be trained in how to manage this work.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Prabhupada built an organization to let ISKCON to go on nicely and can serve every devotee nicely. It's not depend on one person idea. It's depend on a group of devotees.
Prabhupada clearly wanted cooperation within the movement around the world and with the GBC and within the GBC. And one of the funny stories is in the early days, Prabhupada, he chastised the GBC about something, and he said, actually, none of you have any intelligence, but together you have intelligence. So that was Prabhupada's instructions to his disciples, that we should remain humble. We all have our various contributions we can make, but individually, we're very insignificant. But collectively, Prabhupada thought then Krishna would empower us with the correct intelligence and insight to make the right decisions. And hopefully when we make the wrong decisions, to learn from those and to go back and do better.
Srila Prabhupada had so many extraordinary qualities. And I feel like when you meet associates of Srila Prabhupada, his disciples, so many times you can see one quality of Prabhupada that they have really imbibed, that they've really spent decades cultivating. So when you have a group of devotees come together who are following Srila Prabhupada in that way, you bring many of those qualities to the table.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
There are issues that require what would Prabhupada do in the situation. That's the GBC's voice. They come together and give a mandate.
They are a group of people who are entrusted by Srila Prabhupada to demonstrate integrity. And of course, they have to absorb challenges. And also a big responsibility is to create a vision.
And soon after Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, we saw the institution went through various crises. And, some leading devotees could not function together with the others, and they had spiritual difficulties. Because the GBC, the collective body, was there, they couldn't stand up against that body. Yes, they have taken a chunk of ISKCON, but ISKCON remained intact because the GBC was the body that was holding the institution together.
Without an efficient GBC body, we wouldn't have a track upon which to run this train of ISKCON, and that would lead to chaos. We wouldn't have the consistency, we wouldn't have the solidarity, we wouldn't have the unity that a strong track provides.
There are some things on which we have to have an international policy. We all have to be on the same page. In addition, there are large legal issues that have international implications that only an international governing body is going to be able to deal with.
The GBC has the role to guide with seniority, with all the knowledge and leadership, spiritual leadership, and create a sense in the devotees that belong to a bigger institution which has a lot of unity, but at the same time can allow for specific manifestations of their cultures within the realm of Krishna consciousness.
Unified doesn't mean that you have to be all the same everywhere, because according to the place, according to the circumstance, maybe we can adopt some specific way just to communicate to people through education. But of course the system has to be there.
Diversity is a challenge, undoubtedly. It means that decisions can't be made as quickly. Decisions may not satisfy everyone 100%, but that's the beauty of it. They represent an international society, and naturally an international society means a diversity of opinions and backgrounds and interests.
And leadership, of course, is very much about vision. And vision is, on the one side, about preserving the vision as we understand it, as given to us by our founder Acharya. And at the same time, there is a duty, the challenge of keeping that vision fresh. And that means responding to present realities as they change. So there's kind of two things that I think the GBC has to do. It has to be a body that's preserving, and it's also a body which is innovating.
I see ISKCON as growing up, maturing from a charismatic movement to, it's what Max Weber called a rationalized institution. It's when you have to then put your beliefs in writing. You have to formalize the rituals. You have to make sure you understand what all the roles are, what the ethics of the community are, and all the rest. That's where ISKCON is today.
In order for us to grow as we are and to continue to grow as a global movement, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, we need systems put in place. Prabhupada said in his first purpose of ISKCON, of his 7 purposes, is to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large. So in the early days, a temple could start here, start there, and the system was they phoned each other once in a while. The GBC would have 6 or 8 temples and travel and visit. We're getting more sophisticated, we're getting bigger, and we need to have better ways of coordinating amongst ourselves, better ways of training our leaders, better ways of learning from our shared experiences.
So the GBC membership is between today 38 to 40 members, and they have to take care of the whole world. They have zonal duties and global duties. Within the zonal duties, most GBC members have GBC zonal secretaries who help them. So the GBC zonal secretaries have temple presidents, the national councils to help them, spread the movement, establish the temples, etc.
A lot of times in places in ISKCON, devotees and members, they don't really understand what the GBC does. And it's really unfortunate because they play an essential role. And just an example of some of the positive things they do, in the year 2020, the Governing Body Commission, working with the Shastric Advisory Council, approved a whole set of policies called hermeneutics. And hermeneutics means, it's an academic term, how do we study the scripture? How do we study the teachings of Srila Prabhupada? How do we bring together the different statements that he makes into like one cohesive whole?
The general idea of this group of devotees is that they act as a Brahminical body that assists the GBC in careful examination and analysis of our tradition, especially in terms of sadhu, shastra, and guru. There is such a vast body of these 3. The Shastra Advisory Council, or we call it the SAC, has been given this special task to examine very specific questions at times, and sometimes also broader questions.
The 50th anniversary of ISKCON, which was just a few years ago, was a huge international celebration. We had big events in Washington, D.C., just down the street from where the president lives. In Sydney, they had an event in a very, very important and prestigious location. We had celebrations in Delhi and in Calcutta, thousands of people. And that was all organized through the vision and the inspiration of the Governing Body Commission, working together cooperatively and inspiring devotees on a local level. I think probably the most visible manifestation of global cooperation under Prabhupada's GBC is the TOVP, or the Temple of Vedic Planetarium, that's coming up before our eyes in Mayapur.
It's pretty amazing what's happened over 10, 12, 15 years. Could we have gotten a little bit more cooperation? Probably. But we have many peaks and valleys and many outstanding leaders that have really stepped up to the plate to help us since the beginning. So I'm very happy about that. Very exciting things are going on here in Mayapur, and we're always dependent upon the GBC to please bless us and help us in any way that they can.
The global duty officers, where they come into play is they take up a specific project. So they could take up a project of developing education systems within ISKCON. Or they could say, we need a much stronger legal system within ISKCON, so let's establish that. The tenure of a global duty officer is typically 1 year. So they take up a project, they have certain deliverables, and they try to produce that result for the GBC body.
The GBC felt that they need somebody to process the proposals before they get to the GBC. So somebody who can mentally digest the proposal.
We analyse them through a process of positive, negative and interesting. They get passed up to the GBC for their discussions and their voting. Those proposals will either come out as a guideline, a law or a statement.
When voting comes up to the GBC, we put up first a straw vote. We present our PMI, our plus, minus, and interesting points. And then the GBC is able to see mentally the picture of the proposal. And they get it from all sides. They get all the pluses, all the minuses, all the interesting points. And on the first straw vote, they often sometimes say, well, I would vote for this if you change the proposal this way. So after the straw vote, we then take the proposal and we modify it in such a way to satisfy the GBC, but to also satisfy the proposer. And in that way, then the GBC come up with a resolution that is acceptable, and they don't have to spend a lot of time on it.
The Sabha is the spiritual advisory Bhagwat assembly. It takes from regional areas, from different ministries such as the youth ministry, the Vaishnavi ministry, the sannyasis and gurus, giving a certain diverse representation in a committee of 35 devotees, proposals without having to have any GBC sponsors. We can bring up issues to the GBC that they may not be aware of and present papers and initiate discussions.
We see all the resolutions, we go over them again. If something doesn't add up for us unanimously or a majority, then we send it back for reevaluation. I'm one of the 3 youth representatives in the Sabha.
Just recently we established a Sabha website. On that Sabha website there is a form for people to write in with their issues, their questions. Then we consider whether or not it's something we want to take up, and we'll respond to that person to whether or not we're going to be looking at that more deeply. We're not a judicial branch of ISKCON. We take more broad issues, but if there's some injustices due to policies, we'll look at that policy and we'll then send our conclusions to the GBC in the form of a summary paper.
The executive committee is made up of 3 GBC members, a chairman, a vice chairman, and a second vice chairman. And they do the service of the GBC body throughout the year. The GBC meets twice a year. So for the remaining 11 and a half months of the year, the executive committee deals with any issues that may come up that cannot be facilitated, 6 months on.
The GBC ministries play a very, very important role. Say the deity ministry, which has become more present in recent years. With the governing body commission's oversight, they establish policies about when deities can be installed, how many devotees you need, how many brahmanas you need, what are the standards for worship.
We have about 100 plus projects. Some just Goshala in an urban center in India, there are many of them. Maybe around 60 farms, and they're located in many, many different places with many different challenges. So definitely there's a need for standardization, but since agriculture is so local and so particular to regions, we decided not to establish one teaching center, but actually to establish many eco-teaching centers in different farms. What we do to unify is we try to devise policies approve them a GBC body, and follow up to see if they can be implemented.
Vaishnavis need their own minister because the Vaishnavas are represented by everyone else at the table. Now, there are 35 or more, sometimes 40 men in the room during the GBC meetings. There are 3 or 4, maybe 5 women. It's not that men are against women or women are against men, but men naturally think of things from their own point of view. So the Vaishnavi point of view isn't being represented. Many times the Vaishnavas are unaware of how policy may be affecting Vaishnavis or what Vaishnavis might need to help them advance in Krishna consciousness.
We see it as our goal to try to help enhance the reputation and the impact that ISKCON's having on the society around us. So we train devotees how to work with the media. We train devotees how to understand and work with their neighbors. We train devotees how to be good speakers and to be better listeners. And in this way, through the support and the vision of the GBC, our ministry is able to affect the society and individual devotees and families all over the world.
I am on a number of ISKCON committees. We have organizational development. The names don't sound very interesting, but how to organize ISKCON and create systems of management, standards, ethics. I'm on a nominations committee, and our business is to find new, up-and-coming ISKCON leaders, cultivate them, develop them, so they can grow to their full potential. And because after all, time and tide wait for no one.
The GBC strategic planning team has been set up by the GBC some 12 years ago. The ISKCON Leadership Sangha is part of that journey of strategic planning where we wanting to bring together the leaders globally to work collaboratively towards a brighter future for ISKCON. And in that effort, over the years, the GBC strategic planning team have created various committees as part of the strategic planning network, devotee care, outreach.
It's definitely a transitional time. And the GBC are working on training young people through the GBC College. Their vision is to train 160 young people in the next 10 years.
GBC College was a great experience for me, and I'm already a zonal supervisor for Turkey after graduating from GBC College. I was with many senior devotees. I was having association of them, and also the things what we learned from GBC College, the content was super wonderful, and I started implementing the teachings that I learned from the college.
And serving as youth minister on the GBC, representing youth concerns and trying to make the leaders aware of issues among the youth, and also trying to represent to the youth what's going on the GBC, if there's any important topics that are being discussed that affect them. Some of the concerns that the young people have that they would like me to represent to the GBC are some of the hot button issues that are affecting them right now in the movement.
You might say there are two kinds of challenges facing the community now. One is inside ISKCON itself. How is it possible as younger people who not only never met Prabhupada, but were introduced to the faith by people who had never met Prabhupada, when young people bring their own talents and their own questions in the 21st century to ISKCON and to the Bhakti movement of Vaishnavism, how do those new questions, new sensitivities, new attitudes toward culture, toward gender, toward personal authenticity, how do those get factored in? The instinct obviously is to say, well, what would Prabhupada want us to do? But sometimes I think one can be honest, as with other religious traditions, and say he would want us to think for ourselves and figure out what to do in the century, the year in which we live.
Youth are generally worried about a few things. One is the transparency of our organization, that there were things that happened in the early days especially, difficulties that went along with the many successes that were there for Srila Prabhupada and his disciples. And because the conversation around those difficulties isn't had in a totally honest and transparent way yet, we lose a lot of young people, because that's the main ethic of next generation is that they want honesty. It's a principle of Dharma, so it's really a good thing that we could play to our advantage. Right now, though, we're not coming from a place of strength. We're often on the defensive in that conversation. And then the second thing that youth are worried about is a practical, lifelong experience of Krishna consciousness. They recognize that the ashram might provide them something for a year or two, or as it did for their parents for a decade. But long term, what's my experience of life going to be if I practice Krishna consciousness? And does the society offer me opportunities to develop that in a sustainable way while keeping a comfortable space for your family? The third one might be that young people want young people to have a voice in the movement. The businesses that have been able to survive the evolution into a digital culture are the businesses that have recognized young people speak to young people. It's not millennials being spoken to by an older generation, but it's millennials and now Gen Z creating the voice for their generation through these old institutions. And so the lack of youth voice in our movement concerns a lot of young people.
No matter what your color, no matter what your creed, no matter what your story, no matter what you need, we all bleed blood, we all breathe air, we all break bread.
There is a gap between GBC and overall goals that they're trying to pursue and what youth knows about it or even is capable of assisting that goal, or leaders in general being aware and engaging sufficiently some of the most amazing, talented jivas which are present right now. There is no clearer way to influence your future rather than talking to those who are going to be your future.
It would be nice if the GBC could communicate to us their plans, their strategies, and the reasons why they do things. And also if we could be empowered to do things, so then we can feel, okay, we the GBC, we're working together to serve Prabhupada. So that we are part of it. We're not just like, we just get the news, we just get the answer, but we're never part of the discussion.
People should know what's happening. Being more in tune with how culture is changing. During Prabhupada's time, certain things worked. Book distribution worked because people were on the roads looking around. Now people are looking on their phone with their ears plugged up. They're in a different world altogether, and we need to be in that world.
ISKCON and women, it's not at all where it needs to be. We're not progressing as quick as we need to catch up just to where the world is. But it's been an uphill battle as a woman to be respected in any kind of management position.
I really appreciate the fact that they don't come to the limelight, most of them, and yet they do a service that no one wants to do. For example, being the bad guys and getting people out of ISKCON who are not following certain standards, or being the bad guy and going against something popular that the youth want, but Srila Prabhupada wouldn't want it.
We're spiritual, we want to think about Krishna, we want to think about our service, we want to be all mode of goodness all the time, and they're literally in the muck, cleaning up things that you don't want to know, you don't want to think about on a daily basis, is what my understanding of what they tend to do. They put out fires that we don't even know about.
It's crucial what the GBC does because they saw Srila Prabhupada from different angles. The rigor that they go through is so important for the generations to come.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna.
That there is a lot of duties that the GBC has not been able to tackle yet. But we have to catch up on a lot of things that we missed.
I believe there's enough integrity in the collective body that we're going in a good direction. Mind you, sometimes there's frustrations about, you have that liberal, brand wing, and then you have the conservative wing. And they're both needed because a bird won't fly without the two wings.
That has been such an education for me to see how Vaishnavas approach challenges and how they can sit together despite a diversity of opinions. I've never met a group of people so selfless and dedicated. They don't get paid for this service. In fact, they have to pay out of pocket to attend the meeting. We don't have, bankroll for the GBC or anything of that sort. It's a very selfless service, and as with any institution, management comes with its fair share of criticism. Someone is always unhappy with a decision. They humbly accept that and try their best to facilitate devotees on every side of the issue, and trying to understand how everyone can go on in an inspired way in their service to Prabhupada.
Frankly, it's symptomatic of the amount of love that these devotees have for Srila Prabhupada. Now the question is, we're also the pioneering generation. So my generation, the emphasis was kind of on love and trust and just do everything you can and really give yourself and don't expect a whole lot of resources to support you. I personally don't have any staff. I've had staff in the past. I don't have any now. It's okay, but we need to change the system moving into the future. And that's why the GBC lately is so much focused on trying to create systems for the future, because I don't think we can expect 20, 30, 40-year-old devotees to do it the same way we did. It's a little too much to expect. But we did it because it needed to be done.
I trust the GBC that they are doing the best in their own capacity. Endlessly, they are meeting. They meet around the world. They do a really, really big service free of charge for ISKCON. So I am actually really appreciative and grateful that they have been doing this service for the past 50 years.
I asked Prabhupada one time on a morning walk, I said, what does it mean to become one of your leaders? I was actually hoping he'd give me some compliment. I'm a neophyte, which I remain. And I was asking, and I thought he'd say, you're one of my generals, you're on the front line, no way. Prabhupada stopped, put his cane down, sized me up, and he said, it means if anything goes wrong, it's your fault. So on one hand, that is our responsibility. We are the ultimate managing authority, and it falls on the GBC. It's a very heavy and responsible task. Prabhupada said, but you should remember, he said, if you remember that you're blessed, that you get to serve so many Vaishnavas. And I've studied the GBC for many years, and there really is that thread that let me just serve the devotees.